You're listening to the Bigcast, your source for the latest in financial technology. Brought to you weekly by the Best Innovation Group, with your hosts, John Best and Glenn Sarvati.
Welcome to another edition of the Bigcast. My name is Glenn Sarvati on behalf of the Best Innovation Group, where we like to do cool things with financial technology. And this week we've got our annual pre-conference chat with Tracy Davies, the president of Money 2020, which is coming up in Las Vegas very soon, starting off on Sunday, October 26th. And we'll be checking in with Tracy on some of the latest developments of what we can expect of that shindig coming up over the course of the end of October. Want to remind you, you can always find out more about the Best Innovation Group by checking out our website, big-fintech.com. All kinds of great information there on a variety of different services we provide. And there's a good chance that by the time you listen to this, we've already completed this round of the CU Town Hall, which takes place on Wednesdays, pretty much on a monthly basis. We have one, if you happen to be listening to this just as it drops, October 15th, Wednesday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Should be a great session covering a couple of topics, that one of which we're about to get into now, about a recent kind of hiccup in the stablecoin world, specifically around Athena. But we're also going to get into quantum computing and some of the recent enhancements and developments that took place, an announcement that HSBC made of a breakthrough that really starts to show some real-world opportunities of what can be done with quantum computing. If you're interested in joining, you can ask for an invitation by sending a request to cutownhall.com. Go out to that website. There's a button to ask. It is free to attend, but you do need to register in advance. In the very high likelihood you're listening to this after October 15th, you can also hear the replay there. We'll get that posted probably over the course of the next day or two after that. And I got a feeling it's going to be worth listening to. So there's some interesting stuff going on. Speaking of that interesting stuff, real quickly, before we get to our main event, let me just mention, on our bingo card, we mentioned that Bitcoin hit 125,000, which was one of the things we were looking for this year. But almost immediately after doing that, Bitcoin took quite a tumble. It actually dropped, it's kind of stabilized again in the 112,000 range or something like that. It briefly dropped below 110,000. But that wasn't even the big story last Friday. And that was around the stablecoin Athena, which is better known probably by its abbreviation USDE. Temporarily, I'm going to be careful with my terminology. I originally called it depegged. There's an argument that that isn't really what happened. Let's just say their price, which is supposed to be at exactly $1, it's a stable coin, it's supposed to be stable, very briefly dropped to 65 cents, which is kind of a big deal. Again, here's where you get into semantics. It only dropped on one platform, and that's the Binance platform, and that's a pretty big one, so it's kind of a big deal. The argument is it was not a depeg. It was actually a known shortcoming, let's say, not a bug as it's being said, but it was and it's more detailed than probably A, I can do justice to, and B, that we can do in this short update. But they knew that there was an issue that they were in the process of fixing. It was supposed to have been fixed already this week, and I'm assuming by now it has been. But because of that, it created kind of a vulnerability, which then wound up getting triggered by the announcement last Friday of President Trump threatening once again 100% tariffs on China, which then started kind of a chain of events of making Bitcoin go down, which then impacted this because technically, by my definition and by the definition of the Genius Act, Athena, USDE, is not a stablecoin, because a stablecoin is fully backed by a stable currency. It is not. It is mostly backed, but it does have other crypto that's responsible for about 30-some% of its value. Again, semantically, they're saying it is not an algorithmic stablecoin. We went down that path with Terra and Luna before, which created all kinds of problems. I don't know. Maybe it's technically not by the definition of an algorithmic stablecoin, but it sure ain't stable either, at least on a long-term basis. I think it would clearly fail the definition that the Genius Act has laid out, which gets me to another question, is it's called USD. USDE. I think there's a natural assumption that a USD labeled stablecoin is backed fully by US dollars. I'm not aware of any licensing organization that can basically police that. Even the Genius Act. I'm not sure if you can, if it's allowed to, who is the body? Who's the organizing body that says, no, you may not call your product USD whatever because it's not fully USD backed. So I think that's one of those, another one of those crises of confidence we may have to deal with right when we thought the dust was clearing and the smoke was clearing around stablecoin. The other thing I thought was interesting is the whole notion of digital gold, as we've talked about before. In many cases, another way that people refer to Bitcoin. It's interesting to me that Bitcoin and gold have both been moving in the same direction recently and both hit all-time highs just over the course of the last month or so. One of my friends pointed this out, and I thought it was kind of an interesting observation. Gold is usually thought of as a safe haven in times of uncertainty, whereas Bitcoin is more of a speculative and volatile investment. His point was you wouldn't necessarily think of them as moving in lockstep. And if you go back historically, they really hadn't, but this is more of a recent phenomenon. My counter to that is that one of the other things that drives the value of Bitcoin is the lack of confidence in kind of established institutions and the desire to kind of work outside of those. So in an era of uncertainty, which is also what causes gold to often go up, also inflation, we also are at the same time seeing that sort of lack of confidence in institutions. Bitcoin's obviously never been around they were actually created. Bitcoin was created in part because of the last crisis of confidence in those institutions. So we don't have any track record to say whether they should or shouldn't be running together along those lines. So just more interesting stuff to watch, and we'll be doing some more coverage of that. And as I said before, the town hall meeting actually I think is going to be covering. I'm recording this before we do the town hall, but it will probably be covering this topic in more detail. So cutownhall.com. You can probably find a little bit more from John Best and I, along with an audience of informed folks who have probably been thinking about it as well. By now, you probably know if you're going to be attending Money 2020 in Las Vegas at the end of the month. Well, although having just said that, as you'll hear from Tracy Davies, it's pretty phenomenal to me how many people actually buy their tickets over the course of the last 10 days or so, which is still going on. You've missed your discounts at this point, but I'm guessing they're expensible, and that's what people do. But gives us a good opportunity for our annual update. Let's see what we got in store. And I think that this is interesting stuff. Even if you're not attending, it's kind of an interesting kind of overview of what's been going on over the course of the last year in the space. Back for our annual conversation before the excitement in Las Vegas of Money 2020. Tracy Davies, the president, always enjoy these conversations in advance to kind of see what to expect. Joining us from London, I guess you'll be heading over here pretty soon.
Yes, because this year I'm coming in slightly earlier. So yeah, middle of next week, I'll be in Las Vegas.
We were just discussing, it is absolutely remarkable if you think back to last year's Money 20 and just how much the landscape has changed. As a refresher for anybody who doesn't recall, Money 2020 in October of 2024 took place the week before the presidential election. Lots of conversation about Section 1033, data sharing, all kinds of things with the prior administration, lots of government officials there. Can't even imagine how you had to kind of twist and turn to kind of get this year's agenda. Any thoughts on just how much things have evolved?
Well, I think, so much has changed. I mean, you're right. It was actually 6 days before the election. And, if you think about some of those opening keynotes with Rohit Chopra and
yes,
how the regulatory landscape has changed in America as a result of obviously the administration change. So of course, there's been high change. And, if we don't say the word stablecoin in this exchange, I'll be stunned. I think that's probably been the fastest, quickest change that we've seen. Not that, stablecoins are new, obviously, but I think we've certainly seen the ascendancy of the stablecoin. And, from our sort of vantage point, where obviously I have 4 shows around the world, we can see how these trends emerge. But I would say, I think a lot has changed, but, a lot remains the same. The payment at the heart of commerce, the importance of payments, the big players, obviously that does not change. But I think probably the 2 significant changes, and we saw some of this early last year, right? We saw Gen AI just exploded onto Vegas last year. You just couldn't move for Gen AI. And I think that has matured as a talking point as people are really into what they're doing about it. But also, I think it really is agentic AI. And if I look at the sessions on agentic AI, there's some fantastic sessions on agentic AI. So I think, again, that topic has moved on quite fast. And I think stablecoin, I mean, there are lots and lots of sessions on the sort of what we would call, where traditional finance and decentralized finance intersect. In fact, we've got a whole new area of the show called Intersection, sort of reflecting that. So, the world of payments remains a dynamic global force, and within that, there are new changes and new shifts that have emerged this year.
You mentioned the intersections. Is that a track on the agenda?
Yeah, it's more than that. It's an area on the show floor. It's a stage. It's meetups. It's a sort of a multifaceted thing, reflecting, I think, just that really fast move that we've seen to the intersection. And I guess for Money 2020, if you think, we are right at that intersection and always have been between what we might call traditional finance and the newer players, and particularly as we're talking digital assets, the decentralized finance players. So there is a real moment there, and we're reflecting that. We've got lots and lots of exciting things around that new product effectively that we're bringing to the show. But as you say, lots changing, but lots of things remain, really key and core in this, dynamic industry.
I'm glad to hear you say, you kind of got to one of my questions before I had a chance to ask it. It's always the smart money in my mind seemed to be, I had to assume AI would be all over the agenda. Stablecoin was my guess, but it's interesting because the Genius Act obviously only popped up kind of at the midpoint between last year's show and this year's show. So we've had enough time for it to take hold and have people willing to get on stage and make formal comments with the introductions and whatnot. I figured that those would kind of, on my bingo card, be the two that I would have expected to get the most play. And it's always interesting, both the agenda.
Coming to the market. So there's been lots talked about that. So I think there's lots of things as we look at the change in fintech, as it's, we talked, I think, about it growing up. I'm not sure that's the right term, but you know what I mean by that, as it becomes fully into the mainstream.
Agreed. And it's interesting also, just with all this activity, I've heard talk of a downturn in tourism in Las Vegas, but I see absolutely no sign of that affecting Money 2020. If anything, I seem to be hearing from word of mouth more people attending this year than last year. You're kind of expecting the usual, or what do you usually say, 10, 11,000?
We're seeing a lot of excitement, and we are very excited for the show that we're going to deliver in Las Vegas in 10 days time now?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited as well.
There's mentoring, there's content, and they've become, I'm happy to say, really, much loved programs and a really important part of the show. And you can apply to be part of those programs. We announce it obviously on our channels. And if I take the program, certainly I know the Rise Up numbers. I think for every woman that comes on the Rise Up program, there are 6 people that we have to turn away. So there seems to be a lot of demand, and I'm super proud of those programs and what we've done. Yeah, and they will be, both of them, at Vegas this year.
I know several alumni of the program that all speak extremely highly of it. I know a few this year. And I know it's always a challenge. I know they're very immersive as well. And I've heard several saying,
they are.
I want to see the rest of the show. I want to talk to all these other people. I've got this full program too. So, I mean, okay, you build in 36 hours to a day somehow and actually get it done.
Yeah, I mean, we've quite intense programs. I think people don't always realize when they sign up. And we have lots and lots of senior people in the industry who've been massive supporters of us. This is really an industry partnership. It's not just a Money 2020 thing. But yeah, they are quite immersive. And so I talked to both cohorts on the opening morning, and, they're looking at me and they're like wondering what's going to happen. And I think they are really, they're more than just sort of, a bit of content, and, they really are immersive programs, and the alumni are really important to us, and they come back and they're part of the community, and that it's a community initiative, if you like. So yeah, I'm super proud of both of those programs.
Another good reminder, you mentioned before that you actually run 4 shows. I know you had the Amsterdam one in April, May. Is this the 4th? I mean, Have you done it's the Middle East and it's Asia as well, correct?
Yes.
And
So
have you done all, is this the fourth of the year? I mean, of your Grand
yes,
Slam? Is this the final one?
yes. So yes, that's absolutely right. So you're right that we do Asia in the spring in April in Bangkok, Europe in the summer in Amsterdam, and then the
Easy number. You had a big turnout there?
yeah, 30, just over 38,000
For the first one. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean it was an incredible launch, and we really loved delivering that show with our partners. So we have a great joint venture partner there in FinTech Saudi and Tahaluf, and it was very successful. And we saw a lot of Saudi. Saudi has got a very ambitious program as part of the Vision 2030, and seeing a lot of Saudi brands, but also a lot of international brands. And that's our vision really, of it being a combination of domestic and rest of world, which is frankly what all of our shows do. But it was great to see Visa there, MasterCard, JP Morgan, and many of our customers we're going to see in Vegas next week. So yeah, Riyadh is our new show on the block 4 weeks ago. And yes, you're right, this is the culmination in Vegas to close the year, and we're really excited. It's our original home, and I think it's going to be fantastic.
I was there for the first one. I remember, what was that? I said the Riyadh one was just last month in September.
Yeah, September. Yeah, 15th to the 17th.
I gotta go back. I have to admit, was not following that as closely, and like you say, the fact that you had the global brands there, I have to pay.
Yeah, no, it's a long-term strategy to be in that region, and it's a very exciting part of the region and what is going on there and the growth there. And but wherever we are, remember, it's about where money does business. So it's about the whole ecosystem coming together with content, meetings, and it's exactly the same whether it be in Riyadh, Bangkok, Amsterdam, or indeed Vegas. What we do is we bring a very complicated end market together to simplify and to do business. That's kind of what we do, and we now do that in Riyadh as well.
Given how much you got going on, I want to let you get back to your day. Just one real quick thing. You've got any other features of this year particularly excited want to point out? I know you've always got your 2 evening events coming up as well.
Yeah, we will always. Standpoint. Yeah, I mean, that's always the hardest question you ask, because there's always things. So yes, evening events, I know we're
everybody else's too. I mean, you got nonstop competing happy hours and special invitation dinners.
Yeah, you're not short of things to do in Vegas. I think, look, Sunday Night Live has always become, Sunday is the content day. Oh, we have content running all week, but as you know, the show floor opens on the Monday. So Sunday is a big moment, lots and lots of great speakers. I'm excited for Sunday Night Live, which is our big show that really heralds the sort of kickoff, if you like. Great to see Jennifer Bailey, Apple Pay, 10 years of Apple Pay. I think that's going to be amazing. We've announced that. And we closed that with Max Levchin, obviously one of the PayPal founders, but also obviously with a firm. So I think that's going to be great in that sort of great content. But
those are both the Saturday Night Live or Sunday Night Live?
Both Sunday night. There are 2 big keynotes that we've announced so far. And then on Sunday, we'll debut the Money 2020 Awards. So I was announcing it at Vegas last year that we were going to bring a global benchmarking of awards, and the first winners will be unveiled. We've announced 68 finalists, I think, from 14 countries. All of the judging takes place live in Las Vegas on the Friday before. We have 40 incredible judges. So that's one thing for you. Then the show opens. We've got brand new meeting program with a home of the meeting. But this year we're debuting Smart Meets. And I already mentioned Intersection, bang up to date on the intersection of traditional finance and decentralized finance. And I think that probably is going to be the talk of Vegas in 10 days time.
That's interesting. I did not realize. So you literally are convening the judges for the awards on that Friday, so that waiting for the white smoke to emerge from someplace in the Venetian. You can and
that white smoke emerges on Sunday night. So Sunday night, yeah. So they judge live. So they did the early judging rounds. The judging is the point. It's the rigor of the judging. We are not and this is quite an important point, we're not the judge. Money 2020 is not the judges. What we have done is peer judged. We've assembled some of the finest names in the industry. So each jury for each of the big 5 categories has a jury president, and they will lead the judging on Friday live. And debate.
When you say live, that's behind closed doors, though.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I meant live as in they're all physically together. Yes, yeah, that would be fun, but
yes.
I don't. But no, it is the rigor of that judging that is so intrinsic and fundamental to the Money 2020 Awards. So we've already announced the finalists. We did an exclusive report actually with CB Insights on our finalists, so you can go and download that off our website and read about all of the finalists. And then at Sunday Night Live, we will announce the winners. So that's going to be quite a big thing, I think. So quite a lot to keep us busy, I think, in Las Vegas this year.
I will post a link to that CB Insights report. And you've mentioned Sunday Night Live a few times, which I believe local time starts, was it 5 p.m., 4 p.m.?
It is around 4:30, 5 p.m. She said, yeah, it's late afternoon. So Sunday morning, content starts at 9. I think doors open at 8. We have run content all day, and then our sort of big seminal moment, Sunday Night Live, starts around 4:30, 5 o'clock.
That's kind of the first plenary, as I recall. And I know it's a good reminder that this is not a arrive on Monday conference. No. This is the first year I'm actually coming in Saturday night, because I've usually tried to take the first flight in and scrambled to get there and usually miss the first session on Sunday. Yeah. One year I missed Steve Wozniak and I was very upset.
Don't do that. But no, you're absolutely right. It runs from Sunday morning till Wednesday lunchtime. Sunday is predominantly content. And as we said, it concludes with Sunday Night Live, and then we go on to evening events. And then the show floor opens on Monday morning. And the show has always been sort of structured like that. So, but I know, sometimes people think that it opens on Monday, but categorically it opens on Sunday. So please come in, be prepared, come early, and be ready for Sunday morning for fantastic sessions that we have lined up. And we've not even talked about, we've mentioned a couple of the speakers, 350 speakers. I mean, there is a lot. There's a great lineup. I've done lots of these. You've done more Money 2020s, I think, than me in Vegas, but I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a fantastic show.
And I'm a content hound, so I'll be there all day on Sunday. And then I always love seeing what's the flavor and the vibe on the trade show floor too. And I hope to see you at some point in your track shoes trying to cover all the ground that I'm sure you'll be an exhausted woman by Wednesday.
Well, I've definitely decided that I'm wearing, we call them trainers, you call them sneakers every day this year. I've just learned it's a sneaker show.
There's no choice. There's absolutely no choice. Tracy Davies, president of Money 2020. Always enjoy these conversations. I'll see you in about a week.
Look forward to it. See you then.
So I guess so much for my NFL viewing window on Sunday the 26th. As Tracy says, the day is pretty full, starting right away from 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. So, even out on the West Coast with the game starting earlier, I guess I'm not going to be catching a whole lot of football that day. But that's okay. It's a great day, and as I mentioned to her, I'm a content hound, so I'll be there for the content as it kicks off. Even though the trade show floor and a lot of the other activity kind of gets going in earnest, you find people kind of filtering in over the course of the day on Sunday, and you get a pretty full house by the time they do the Sunday Night Live, as she mentioned, in the late afternoon. But a pretty full day that you don't want to miss. Tracy also talked about the Riyadh event, the Money 2020 Middle East that just took place. And I was really stunned when I heard that 38,000 people showed up for that one. She did point out to me after the fact, that's a somewhat different model in that because of the sponsorship that they are working with with some local partners, there are a lot of free attendees or deeply discounted sponsor funded. And that's just more kind of in keeping with the culture in that part of the world. So that's a more familiar model. So it's hard to kind of do an apples to apples comparison to the attendance. The US, as she says, is still the biggest fintech market and still their second biggest show. Asia, which has only been going on for a couple of years, is growing fast. And as we all know, is projected to become the biggest fintech market in the not too distant future. So there's always kind of interesting stuff there. I'll be watching closely on the trade show floor if we wind up with a fourth t-shirt. that adds to the trilogy that we posted a while back of how we kind of define the eras of Money 2020 by the t-shirts you could pick up as swag on the trade show floor. Maybe there'll be a fourth. Maybe there'll be socks instead, because it does wind up being kind of the more common thing these days. We'll post a link to that old story. I think it's a little bit of fun. You may want to take a look at that too. For those who want to arrive even earlier than Sunday morning to Money 2020, and I'll be getting there kind of, unfortunately, I'm going to miss this one because I made my flight arrangements a little bit too soon and wasn't aware. But starting at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, it's an affiliation that our friends at Mitchell Stankovic and Associates have been doing these underground collisions for some time. They've actually put together a whole credit union takeover. There's been significant increase in the amount of credit unions attending Money 2020. They've kind of got they've got a website, or at least a registration page set up for their own underground collision that takes place off-site for Money 2020 before the official opening of the show on Saturday afternoon. Should be really good stuff. Kyle Hopman's going to be there, and 6 of the largest credit union CEOs, including maybe Federal, will be speaking as well. We'll post a link to that one, along with a code that you can use to actually get a discount on that. And then they've actually put out a schedule of other areas of interest across the agenda for the following days, where hopefully we show some show of force with the credit union attendees. And I believe there's even a way to sort within the app for credit union attendees who will be there across the days. So check that out as well. 1 p.m. Saturday, Mitchell Stankovic and Associates doing the underground collision. With that, another episode of the Big Cast in the books. So again, my name is Glenn Sarvadi. You can track me down at Money 2020 if you happen to be going. Just check me out in the app there. Or you can always drop me a note through my firm 154 Advisors. Probably easiest to track me down by checking me out on LinkedIn. You can always check me out at the Best Innovation Group website too, big-fintech.com. As I said, you'll find out more about the company there. Always love to hear from you about the podcast, about anything else going on in the credit union space. We love to get feedback. And we'll be back again. We typically have new content every Tuesday. If you pick us up on the website, you will always find past episodes there. If you pick us up on Amazon, Apple, Apple Music, Spotify, etc., you should also find the back episodes. And if you hit the like or subscribe button, you'll be informed when we have new content. We hope you find it useful. And as always, thanks for listening.
Check back each week for the latest from the Big Cast. Or better yet, we hope you'll consider subscribing for free via Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet us at Big Fintech. Email info@big-fintech.com. Or visit us at big-fintech.com and click on the Media tab, where you can post a comment or check out our archive of hundreds of past episodes. See you next week.